Hey, I'm back with Chuck Muth, conservative author, blogger, man about town. And you and I couldn't be more different politically. Why do I like you so much?
And the feeling is mutual.
Yeah.
I mean, we go back, what was it, 20 years ago when you ran for Congress against John Ensign?
Senator, 17 years ago, yeah.
And I have a unapologetic conservative, but there are some conservatives that whose agenda I frankly didn't always agree with. I know you and I probably agree on marijuana, absolutely,
right.
and a number of other different issues, probably because I'm more of a libertarian than a social conservative. So I think we can find common ground. One of my best Democrat friends is Senator Tick Segerblum, and he's probably further left than even you are.
Yes, he is.
But he's an honorable man. I know where he's coming from. I take him at his word, and I like dealing with people like that, even though we disagree philosophically.
So you made a statement as we got on camera how happy you were about our president and the way things are going. What is it that you're liking about it?
Well, yeah, as a conservative, obviously he's pursuing a conservative agenda, so I obviously like that, but probably even more so, I like the fact that he's disrupting the entire Washington, D.C. establishment on both the left and the right. He is doing things in D.C. that have just not been done in my lifetime that I can remember. I mean, Ronald Reagan came in and did a lot of things differently from a philosophical standpoint, but he was a product of the system as well. Donald Trump is completely outside the system, and I think he's doing to government what frankly, Uber and Lyft did to the taxi industry, what Airbnb has done to the hotel industry, and I think that's good for our country.
And so where is the end game? When you look at, okay, what you'd like this country to look like in 4 years, what's the thought?
Well, I'd like us to get back to the notion of limited government that does the things the government is supposed to do. And I think, Ed, we've probably developed somewhat of an entitlement mentality over so many years that obviously has not fixed the problem with poverty, particularly. The drug war has been a miserable failure coming out of Washington, D.C. with prohibition. And so I'd like to see us get back to the idea that government has a limited role to play in our society. They should do the things that they are supposed to do and do them well, and let the public sector and the local governments handle the rest.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any objection to any of Donald Trump's picks at this point?
At this point, no. There have been some concerns raised about his Treasury Secretary and some conflicts and all, and they're going to have to resolve those issues. But I do like the fact that on issues, for instance, the military, that he brought in General Mad Dog Mattis. I mean, I've known about Mad Dog Mattis for a long time, a huge fan, and I like the fact that he doesn't apologize for the fact that if you're going to send us in, which is what we've been trained to do, we're going to win. It's not a matter of, we're going to negotiate this thing. If we get called in, we're going to win and we're going to get out. And I like that in a military leader. What's
your feeling about the allegations that Trump and Putin are, there's too much love, too close there?
Yeah, I don't buy the arguments against this, and the reason why, and we will probably disagree on this, but I believe that Putin saw weakness in President Obama and took full advantage of it. And so he made moves over there that we did not like and did not respond to very well. I don't think Donald Trump is naive about Putin and his intentions, but I believe that Putin will see Trump as a stronger adversary, and I think it's probably wise for him to reach out and say, okay, what has happened in the past where you guys took advantage of us isn't going to happen under my watch. Now let's see if we can establish a relationship where we can work together instead of being at each other's throats, especially when it comes to dealing with the ISIS problem in the Middle East.
In the federal level, the elections went so much one way, for Trump and the Republicans. However, the state of Nevada seemed to, take a detour and go the opposite way. Why was that?
Well, at the federal level, with the U.S. Senate race, with Joe Heck and Catherine Cortez Masto, it was such a close race. I think Joe Heck really hurt himself and probably cost himself the election when 2 weeks before Election Day, he renounced Trump and actually called for him to resign. I think that hurt him tremendously with his base. And the voters have a tendency sometimes to put a pox on everybody's house. So when they saw Congressman Heck and Representative Hardy undermined Donald Trump at the time. I think they just looked at that and said, well, I'm voting for Donald Trump. I'm not voting for any of the rest of you. And I think it hurt people like Danny Tarkanian down ballot because of that.
Did we have a lot more votes for president than we did for like U.S. Senate? Was there a big gap in Nevada, a number of votes that were total votes on those?
You know, I honestly don't know about that drop off. I'd have to look.
Because that would be curious.
It would be.
Based on what you're saying.
Yeah, and then back at the legislature, of course, we had the Republican control in the Senate, went back to the Democrats.
Right.
In the Assembly, Republican control went back to the Democrats. But I don't think that was so much of an outlier in this election cycle as it was Republicans winning it 2 years ago.
Right.
That was the much bigger outlier. I mean, Republicans never should have won the number of seats that they had in the state assembly. So I think this was probably just going back to situation normal more so than the Democrats actually did something, you know, different. They just simply showed up to vote again.
We need to get more people out to vote. I mean, it's the percentage of people who do vote is still, you know, it's horrible. And are you in favor of making it easier to vote on the internet or vote, more days or than just election day or early voting, extending that? I mean, what is your feeling about voting?
Well, first, I'm probably going to take a different position from you in the standard line. I don't necessarily believe that we have a problem, that we should encourage more people to vote. Unfortunately, we have too many people going into the voting booth completely uninformed about the candidates and the issues, but they're going in there because they feel that they're obligated to do it. I believe everyone who's legally eligible to vote should vote, but they should be casting an informed vote. If you don't know the issues and you don't know the candidates, especially in this day and age when there's so much information out there on the internet, watching shows like yours, the information's there. If you're not going to avail yourself to it and cast an informed vote, do us all a favor, stay home, and let the people who are actually paying attention cast the ballot. Now, as far as the ease of voting, I don't know how you can possibly make it any easier. We've got 2 weeks of early voting. Anybody can get an absentee ballot now. You don't have to even cite a reason why you're not going to be here to vote. So I don't think that there's any impediment to voting in this country. I think it's perfectly easy for anyone who wants to.
I should mention before I forget that you have this very funny book, or funny, maybe the right or wrong word, I don't know. Interesting, clever book. 101 Greatest Conservative Quotes of All Time. And you quote, all the, well, I was going to say a lot of Republicans, yeah, but you have, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson. And when I asked you, what is your favorite quote? And you said it was the Ronald Reagan. You want to read it?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Happy to. So, Ronald Reagan said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free." And I don't know how anyone can argue with that from any philosophical standpoint.
And I don't think anybody will. I mean, the idea is let's not take our freedom for granted. Because we have it doesn't mean it's always going to be here. There's too many historical stories where there was freedom and then something happened and it was gone.
And it doesn't happen overnight in a coup the way people think that it happens. Freedom is taken a little bite at a time, a little bit at a time, and I think the American public just needs to be aware of it. It's like a slowly boiling cauldron rather than a big coup where the military comes in and takes over. And I think that's the danger that we face.
What are you looking forward to in this next governor's election in Nevada?
In the governor's election, I am looking forward to, hopefully, Adam Laxalt running for governor. I think he's the true movement conservative. He's the antithesis of Governor Brian Sandoval, who I think would actually go down in history as one of the best Democrat governors the state has ever had based on what he has done in office. And I think we need to have that switched back to conservatism. I think Jim Gibson was a great conservative governor who just didn't implement very well. He had a lot of problems in the administration. I don't think you would find that. Jim Gibbons, correct. Jim Gibson was the mayor in Henderson.
Good guy. But his father, didn't he run for governor at one time, the father?
Jim Gibson did?
The father. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he did one time, primary, years ago.
But I think Adam Laxalt has cleared the field I think he is going to run. I think he's cleared the field. If Laxalt
How did he do
wasn't
that? How did he
serious-
do that? All these other top Republicans are announcing they're not going to run. Why?
Because you have to win the primary before you can get to the general.
Right.
And the fact that Dean Heller was very interested in running for governor, Mark Hutchison was very interested in running for governor, but they were anti-Trump. They were never Trumpers during the campaign, and Republican primary voters would remember that. And Laxalt, to his credit, he didn't come out strongly for support of Donald Trump, but he also didn't throw him under the bus. And I think that gives him a tremendous advantage in a Republican primary.
Are you happy with the job that Dean Heller's doing?
Dean and I have an interesting relationship. We've known each other a long time, maybe even a little bit longer than I've known you. Dean has never been a movement conservative. He's always been more of a populist. He does cast some votes that I would not be in favor of, but I have a very good relationship with his office, especially with his chief of staff, Mac Abrams, and it's good that when Dean's going to cast a vote that they know I'm not going to like, Mac usually calls and says, hey Chuck, Dean's going to cast a vote, let me explain to you the reason why, and we talk it out and we resolve our differences there. So no, Dean and I are absolutely fine.
The stadium deal is going back and forth. There's money, there's not money. Sheldon Adelson's involved, he's not involved. Are you in favor of raising room taxes to finance the stadium?
I was in this case, and which will shock a lot of people who know me as the anti-tax guy, but here's the reason why. That room tax was established in Las Vegas for the sole purpose of expanding entertainment.
Getting visitors in, right?
And getting
tourists.
visitors in.
Yeah.
And so I find that the use of the room tax to build a world-class stadium, which this city desperately needs to expand its entertainment options, is an appropriate use of that room tax. Now, I was not in favor of raising the tax to expand the convention center. The convention center does compete with private convention facilities in town, so I didn't support that. But as far as the stadium, I think it's absolutely an appropriate use of that room tax to put a public portion towards the stadium.
And what about our hockey team? You happy about that?
No, I'm thrilled for the hockey team. I'm furious at how they funded it because it wasn't a direct tax like the room tax that they're using for the stadium, but it turned out to be an indirect tax. Now they're taxing our cars to park there. So it's a room tax on our automobiles, and as a local who loved going to the Strip and hated downtown because of the parking problems, now I have to pay to park to go to the
But
Aria.
doesn't the capitalistic side of you encourage, hey, everywhere else, every other hotel around the country charges for parking?
Oh, but that doesn't make it right. You're using the whole thing. If everybody jumped off a bridge, would you jump off the bridge?
Well, not really, but I mean, but it's kind of the norm to pay. You go to anywhere in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. I mean, Miami. I mean, any large city, you're paying for parking.
There are places that you and I can go to, especially New York, where it costs more to park your car overnight than it costs to stay in a first-class world
I was in
resort
LA
here in Las
yesterday. It cost
Vegas.
me $48 to park my car at the hotel overnight in LA.
It's insane, absolutely insane. So I don't say that they can't do it. I mean, they have every right to charge for parking if they want. That doesn't mean that I don't object to it, and I think that's it's a terrible thing for Las Vegas. We've lost so many things. When I moved here in 1988, Vegas was right before the Mirage opened, and it was still Vegas, and there were cheap buffets. You don't get those anymore. You could tip the guy at the show and get a front row seat and get a great seat. You don't do that anymore. So I do regret some of the changes that have been made by the bean counters who run gaming in this country now.
And what do you think about the internet gaming? As far as people being able to go online, play sports betting, poker,
Yeah, the libertarian in me says absolutely you should be allowed to do it. I know that Sheldon Adelson has raised some serious concerns about the effects that online gaming can have from a societal standpoint, and I think those concerns should be raised and should be considered in Congress when they debate this issue.
And we'll conclude with one topic that you and I agree on, as recreational marijuana. That, as you said, the drug war has not worked right now. And we're kind of in a middle ground right now where it's not illegal to possess marijuana, but you can't buy it anywhere.
Right.
So right now, it's the drug dealers are having a heyday, right, selling it. Isn't that where all the money's going right now?
Well, absolutely, and it's not just that they're getting the money, but that money is fueling extreme violence. I mean, the drug war has not just, it's been a miserable failure. That's not sugar-coated. It's been a horrible thing for this country, this drug war. It's cost lives. It's cost billions of dollars to fight this thing. to keep people from smoking a joint in their house? I mean, come on, let's get real. This is absurd. So yeah, that's now what I would have liked to have seen.
Right.
Would be to legalize marijuana rather than setting up this whole tax and regulatory regime. Right. But I understand why that was necessary in order to get it passed by the people. And now that it has been passed, there is popular support for it. Enact it. Let's get the revenue that's going to come in. We don't need, now I'm very concerned about the governor's proposal to raise the marijuana tax again. It's already at 15. He wants to add another 10. Well, now you're looking at least a 25% tax on it. If the objective is to get it out of the hands of the illegal drug dealers, you don't do that by raising the price so high through taxation that it's cheaper to buy on the street and it's just going to continue to fund the illegal drug trade.
Right, yeah. Very good point. Very good point. Well, Chuck Muth, by the way, I want to ask you about citizen outreach. What can you tell me about that?
We were founded, this is our 25th anniversary this year. We were founded in 1992 here in Las Vegas. We're a grassroots conservative organization that fights for lower taxes, limited government, and individual freedom. So we get involved a lot in Nevada, particularly at the state level. We do get involved in a number of federal issues as well, and occasionally even a local issue. That we're very involved right now with this whole issue of Republic Services asking the city of Las Vegas to extend its contract, monopoly contract, for an additional 15 years, 5 years early, without competitive bidding.
And there is a competitor that's trying to get in there, right?
I don't know if there's any competitors. I mean, there's like
yeah.
20,000. I didn't realize this until I started looking into the issue. There's 20,000 waste hauling companies all across the country. If you open it up to competitive bidding, maybe none of them will apply. Maybe they'll just figure that Republic's got a lock on it. But the least we could do is to open it up and allow people to bid on it, and let's see what's out there.
You have any interest in political office yourself?
No, I'm like you. I ran one time. I'm one and done. I ran against now Congressman Dina Titus for her state Senate seat in 1996. Didn't have a prayer, of winning it, but it was an excellent, and I think you would agree, it's a great experience to have.
A great experience, but Chuck and I are run and done. Love the expression. Thank you so much, Chuck Muth, President of Citizen Outreach and author, 101 Greatest Conservative Quotes of All Time, Dr. Chuck Muth, as well as columnist, talk show person, you're everything. See you next week.
Been hurt in an accident? Turn to someone you can trust. Enough said. Call Ed.
I'm Ed Bernstein, and I've been helping you and your neighbors for almost 40 years.